Bada bing, bada boom. Welcome back to the EF5 podcast, the crossroads between logistic and what? You like the bada bing, bada boom? Changing it up a little bit.
I was not expecting
I was thinking about it when I was coming in. Just like everyone else is thinking about their money. A lot of people are thinking about money. How much do you think about money? You got to pay bills, so you got to think about it a little bit.
So every day.
Yeah. Every day we thinking about
whether
it.
I want to or not.
Exactly. And then sometimes it's negative. Sometimes it's positive. You never know depending on the day. But today we're going to talk about it in a middling kind of view. It's not negative. It's not positive. It's informational. It's valuable.
It's hidden.
It's hidden, so you can't even see it. So I'll let you take it away.
No, just wanted to kind of we've talked about it in previous episodes about certain things that were coming, and this one thing is pretty interesting to me. It's a hidden, two hidden major things that we're going to see here soon. And we're seeing it somewhat already. One area of that example would be your rent payment, the house payment. We've seen mortgages from a residential side increase.
Yep.
I think what everybody kind of missed is that, like, I think you live in an apartment now, so you'll have to make that decision in 13 months or whatever it is to decide to stay or move or whatever the case might be, and you'll evaluate that based upon your location, all the parameters.
Yep. And August is coming fast.
So with that, you're looking at your cost of rent, and that's been aware from a personal side. But the piece that I want to bring forward is I don't think people have connected the dots realizing the commercial side, the industrial side, what that will look like, that new price point coming in.
Okay. So commercial side, you mean like just buildings, like warehouse buildings? Or
warehouse buildings that might store your goods, manufacturers that might produce the goods, new businesses that are developing. Those that's a pretty large cost for companies as their overhead of their facility.
Right.
And so with that, a lot of people I don't believe connect and understand that cost is usually a 5-year lock-in. It's usually as low as 3. Sometimes you sublease from a 1-year point of view, but most of the time it's a 5-year window.
Okay.
Or beyond if you're buying the building. So if you're renting, you come in, you got a lease, you put it in play, it's usually a 5-year concept. So that locks you in. There's percentages of increase of different dynamics, but in theory, you're kind of locked in at a base level. And then that will aggregate upward at a certain percentage of cost of living increase that is traditional to inflation terms. Okay. So usually it's about 3 to 5% built in. So let's just say we rented this office and it was $1,000 and they said, okay, we want a 5-year lease. Well, they put that 5-year lease into play, and then next year it's going to be 3% more. So it'd be 1,000 plus 3% and so forth, and it stacks and it grows.
Okay, so you're aware of it prior to the signing.
Correct, but in the awareness of the general public of how that affects the cost, because basically anything that it costs to do business is put back into the product.
Exactly.
So we're 2023 now. So we're almost to that, I guess, 3-year window, 20, 21, 22, 21, 22, 23. So we're almost to that 3-year window of the experience of when COVID started and how the supply chains went up and down and all the different inflational costs. And in theory, we're leveling out. But what does level mean? Everybody thinks it's going to go back downward.
Yeah, leveling and at least I would say in my mind implies that it's not getting cheaper, but it's definitely going the direction of being costing less. Yeah,
so in theory, your inflation is going upward, and then leveling means it stops. Downward, of course, is going back down, but how many times have we bought this drink for the same price 5 years ago?
Right.
That we buy today 5 years forward.
Yeah. You can look at anything.
And it stops.
Yeah.
So the same concept of the hidden cost in the commercial real estate of what it's going to cost for a company to do business is going to continue to work itself into the system.
Okay.
So one reason why it won't necessarily go drastically down, this doesn't include supply you have oversupply and you got to sell it, so you are going to give that 50% off after Christmas or wherever it might be. At the end of the summer, everything goes 90%, must go, and they sell it.
Right.
we're not talking about that concept. We're talking about why won't it go down and stay down? And it won't go down and stay down because these other costs are coming forward. You had supply demand, then you had, we talked about it before, the employees' wages.
Right.
And that's had to match the rent cost, the new cost of goods that are going into the product. Now you have the two hidden costs, I would say, the commercial real estate cost, and then the next piece would be insurance.
Okay. Now,
just think about this. What is insurance?
That's a good question.
It's a risk assessment.
Yeah, okay. That's what I was trying to get to.
If something bad was to happen, then you're covered.
Right. Yeah, that's like coverage for potential problems.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if a problem happens and the insurance company has to pay for that, they have to replace the goods or fix the goods, correct?
Correct.
Well, that's now at a new price point.
Yeah, now it's, more expensive, I'd imagine, than ever.
Correct. So your previous insurance price point, they're going to increase their premium. So you think companies make that much money?
Not enough to pay all the increases.
Or not to pass it along.
Right.
So those two larger costs to operate business, if a company has not already pre-planned for that coming in, they will need to plan for it. So they're not going to be able to drive their costs down much different.
Right.
And if they haven't planned for it, or if they go out of business because they hadn't planned for it, the new company that they got to replace has got to account for it.
And I got to imagine it's discouraging too from a sole proprietorship or self-employed person to, even if you are prepared to come into that with that money and still having to pass it along onto your product, and your product not getting the amount of sales that it needs to stay afloat, like a food company. Right. Let's say you're making hot sauces. I don't know. And, if you're going to outprice all of the big hot sauce companies, this company you've never heard of that you're paying $10 more, per however many, compared to a Texas Pete or a Frank's, like, you're just not going to compete, and you're going to go out of business fast.
Right.
So it's hard, I'd imagine, hard to convince yourself to want to do it yourself when doing it yourself seems like it's such a hard thing to do as the current economy.
And yeah, that example you gave has another layer too. Because those companies have a bigger buying power.
Correct.
So their cost of that is going to be less per product, so to speak.
Correct.
So it definitely is hard in that analogy.
And then you have production and all that stuff. Right. I mean, they have it over you before you're even in, kind of thing. Like, they're controlling it. But that doesn't mean you should stop. But it's also discouraging for you to want to do that and then be turned away by hidden costs like insurance or commercial real estate things or things like that.
Well, and just to clarify, just make sure we're on the same page and everybody sees that. The hidden costs, I say, are more. No, they're not hidden that you're not aware of that in business.
Right.
They are going to be hidden in our current time frame that they're not. I don't believe a lot of people are considering that. Like, you can tangibly see the price of food going up at that moment.
Right.
You can tangibly see where gas has increased for a hurricane or whatever it might be.
Right.
But to tangibly forecast and plan forward for an understanding that you're not going to get cheaper rent, you're not going to pay cheaper insurance, it's going to be more expensive, and where's that going to go?
Right.
How's that going to look? So that's all coming. I
mean,
it's coming. It's just a matter of when.
So, I mean, obviously we can't solve it. The solution isn't done by you and I in this room, and we're not going to fix the fact that it's coming. But what are ways that you can prepare for it, or even be used to it? I guess would be the way I would say the question. Like,
you just have to really have the awareness that it's coming.
Okay.
And then look at how that fits into your product and your service to understand how you're communicating that outward, and does that fit? And some people have to make that decision to go out of business on top of that.
Right.
I mean, it just is. It is unfortunate part. That's why, 5% of the small businesses actually succeed after the first year to start with.
Yeah.
And it's something like 0.9% last 20 years or more.
Right.
So it's pretty interesting. I mean, we see it in our line of business with the amount of people that have come and gone just in the last 5 years, and that isn't even specific to COVID. That's just operationally.
Yeah.
What is flying at people right now is the appearance that's so fast and furious because we haven't seen it to this scale in such condensed time frame.
Right.
So right when we catch up to one thing, something else is coming at us. So I just think it was. I just thought it was very important that we talk about those two things because I have not heard that many people understand the impact of those type of costs.
Well, I know I don't listen to talk shows or podcasts too often, but when I do, I try to find things that are informational and educational. And like I said, I don't really seek out economic advice, but I do hear it in passing, and I know no one's mentioned either of those two.
But think about this basic concept. We talked about this. So if the goods are more expensive and insurance is a risk assessment to replace some goods.
Right.
The insurance is in business to be in business too for a profit.
Right.
So they're going to account for that.
Right.
Commercial, industrial type facilities have more of a demand because there's more goods being warehoused and supported or made on each side of every country than ever before, or to the extent that it was for many years before.
Right.
So there's more pressure demand. So then just like housing, when there was more pressure demand or apartments, the price is going to kind of influx that.
Right.
So that's where they're coming from if you are alert to it. So.
Well, now that we've made you alert of it, now it's time for me to remind you about the fact that
we're back.
We're back. We're back. This is probably the third We're Back episode, but hey, we're back. It's here.
Hey, it's official. This year we are back.
This year we are back. The scheduling, we're still working out some kinks, but it's going to be nice to have it back.
2023. We're back. We've been doing this for almost 3 years now.
It's crazy, ain't it?
2.5 years.
Yeah, pretty much.
2.5 years, 70-something episodes.
Started, July 2020, I think? Yeah. Somewhere around there?
July, August, somewhere in there.
Somewhere in there, yeah. And then now it's 2023, and here we are, different room, same building, but we're back. We're back. So leave a like, leave a comment if you learned something. I feel like share it. Share it if you learned something. Share it if you want to teach some other people something, because there might be people who aren't prepared for these insurance or commercial increases.
Oh, yeah. They're definitely not alert. The feeling is that inflation is going to stop and prices are going down.
Not going to happen.
So now the price may go down for a moment in time because they need to get rid of their goods.
Right.
Because we have more that we're going to talk about what's coming. We're going to talk about what's coming since we've been 100% right on the past 3 episodes over the past 2 years.
That is true. It's kind of incredible, actually, how accurate we are. But I'm not going to talk about it anymore because you got to go watch it.
You got to listen.
You got to listen. And you can catch the next one, too.
We out.
We out.